Hey YouTube, it's Kimrix, messing around with the format a little bit still. I'm not going to be doing any recap today on the art that I've been working on. Instead, I'm just going to give a little bit of a talk about something I'm really excited that's coming up in the comic book universe. So stick around, we'll go over a little bit about the comic book industry as well. Recently at a conference, DC threw out some doom and gloom by bringing up that the comic book industry was collapsing. This is terrible news for me as an upcoming artist, though I do feel that the internet is already generating the largest new market for self-publishing anyway. But the loss of the big guns like DC is definitely a terrifying prospect. They did talk a bit about the path they were going to take to try to rectify this issue, and it has me really excited. They spoke about how the future of comics, especially ones that they were going to release, were going to emphasize less on the mega omnibus type stories and a lot more on the evergreen stories. Evergreen is of course an industry way of saying a one-off. It's disconnected from all other parts of that universe. It's simply the characters with their baseline, this is who they are type descriptions, but without any of the prior story from all over the place. Things like Alan Moore's Watchmen or Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. That's why I'm excited. I understand that many fans of comics will hate that their massive worlds of hyper-interconnected and overly convoluted stories are going to maybe start to fade out. But the more I look to my collection, the more I realize that as someone who's come late to comics, those tend to make up the bulk of my purchases. Things like the Cape, Claws. We even have the currently running Batman and the Shadow crossover. Stories like these pull me in. I'm not worried about something that was said 200 issues ago in a title series that's different from the one I'm reading, coming back, and now I don't understand what's going on. It's just not enjoyable for me. And even with this new Batman and the Shadow crossover, the characters are just ingrained as cultural characters. They don't really need more of a history than what we already assume. And with what I've read so far, this story is really able to thrive on its own. That brings me to my main point of focus, my main exciting upcoming release that I'm already signed up for and ready to go with. In recent comics, the king of these evergreen stories, for myself at least, is Shawn Murphy. Whether he is writing the story or simply acting as the hand that brings it to life, his lifetime of stories like these has really caught my attention. It started when I read his run of American Vampire: Survival of the Fittest. Though the title was part of a larger running series, this miniature run was pretty well designed as its own thing. I needed no outside knowledge of the story to have it pull me in. From there I went back and picked up his 8-issue run of a book he did with Grant Morrison known as Joe the Barbarian. And this all happened shortly before his 2013 release that would pull me into a comic in a way that I've never been before, Punk Rock Jesus. Since then he's dropped Scott Snyder's The Wake, Mark Miller's Chrononauts, and Rick Remender's Tokyo Ghost. Most of these titles he's had a direct hand in writing and the creation of the world. His styling and understanding of page flow and how BSing an image can work towards the artist's advantage has shaped my own path as an illustrator. All these stories he's worked on have elements in them that I really felt would do well in a Batman-style comic. He has worked on one in the past, and since then he's been working on these incredible pieces of commission work involving Batman and many of the other characters from that universe. So finding out over Twitter that he had just signed a contract to work on a Batman story for DC it was incredible. But then later finding out that part of that contract was that he would work on a Batman story that would stand on its own, my world just stopped. The first issue for Murphy's White Knight series is landing on October 4th of this year. I'm already on the list for it, and I'm gonna have to stay in contact with my local comic book store because he did hint that there might be a trade being released that's gonna be considered sort of an artist print, an artist check for printing. It's like an oversized comic. I'm still kicking myself for missing the Tokyo Ghost artist proof book. He keeps posting teaser images of White Knight as well, all over social media, and everything he's showing really brings together this idea that he's going all out with this comic. It's like everything he's worked on to this point has been fantastic training towards this book. The detail in his city backdrops, the way he uses light and dark to move the eye around the page and have perfect focal points in every panel. The feel of motion and life, both existing in the characters and the world they inhabit. And the story. It's one of those ideas that come along that's just perfect, but if it was going to involve a long-running Batman title, we just wouldn't see it. The gist so far is that the Joker has been 100% reformed. With his newly established connection to reality, he realizes that the concept of vigilantes and the culture that's sort of formed around them, it's absurd. They exist mostly to disrupt everyday life, and they have no repercussions. The story will follow the Joker as he ascends into power in Gotham City through political means. This is easily obtainable by him because he's a genius. I mean, that's not even a thing. Like, the Joker is a genius, but he's always been encumbered by his insanity. But now, in his state of complete clarity, his goal is to bring down the Batman by turning the entire force of the system against him. Come on, how is that not just amazing? And the best part is that it will have a definitive beginning and an end. A fully singular existence that I can converse to other people about. And I'm not going to need to know what happened in a Superman side story like 40 issues ago. It's going to involve none of that. I'm just going to know point A is here, point B is there, and this is what happened in between. That is it. And that is the allure of the one-off story. That is where the power in it lies. And if you're like me and you want to see more of this, I beg of you to try to get out there and try and pick this up. Try and look into DC for all of these one-offs that are going to be happening after this point and just purchase them. It's very clear that the White Knight run is going to be this sort of test in the market to see if it's a viable option for them. And how well it does might hopefully swing DC's funding focus to more of these books in the future. I know it's kind of selfish to want this and less emphasis on the epic-sized universe runs. There are of course people out there that prefer these larger universes and the stories and all the information that they can pull in and retain about it, even more so than their own lives. Of course, but I do feel that the trend in comic book purchasing is moving more towards these one-offs. They're easy to follow and understand, and because of that, I agree with DC's logic. And if this approach keeps them alive and even rockets them into a better and brighter future in tomorrow's comics, more power to them. But let me know what you think. Are you Team Evergreen, or maybe you're Team Mega Omnibus? Let me also know what you think about this format. It might not be a constant. Anytime something interesting happens in the industry, I'll probably pop in and do one of these. You know, try and spark a little discussion. Next week, though, I'm probably going to focus more on a character concept for Kid Cthulhu and give a little bit of a talk about how to design a character around a story. Until then, though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.